Howdy y'all, this is Losman here, and it's Sunday, so that means it's time for another Lazy Sunday Roundup. Alright, so we have 18 days till Halloween. Well, as of this day, I don't know, when you're watching this video, it might be 17 days, or it might be 15 days. So that means that we're getting closer to the Halloween holiday, which for many of us is one of the best times of the year. You know, you've got costumes, you got candy, you got parties, you have all sorts of fun things like Halloween themed candy, cereals, all sorts of goofy things. You know, you got, families taking their kids to corn mazes or pumpkin patches, for, fun family stuff. I mean, Halloween's become a real big deal in these, the past decade or two. I remember as a kid, it used to be just kids going out at night, trick or treating, and that was about it. Now adults take take part in it too. Not just the parents. You've got the parties and apparently the tradition of women dressing up like in rather slutty outfits. But that's a topic for another discussion. Well, let's see events that are going to occur this week. On the 17th of October, it will be my 48th birthday. Yes, the Losman is 48 years old. It may be hard to believe, although my hair kind of betrays it a bit, although I'm just happy I have hair, so yay. But so for my 48th birthday, I don't really have anything major planned. Yeah, I'd probably have dinner with a girlfriend, and I'll definitely watch a cool movie, and I will have a cool list that day. It's going to be something related to my birthday, so it's going to be kind of fun, to check that out. So I'll have that posted probably late Wednesday or early Thursday. As far as other events going on, I've been hearing that they're doing a 40th anniversary screening of Alien in the big screen, and I know one of my friends, Alicia, went to go see it today, and she enjoyed it greatly. Now, if you haven't seen Alien on the big screen, I highly recommend it. I did back in 19 or no, I think it was the 20th anniversary, maybe it was the 21st anniversary of the movie. I got to see a screening, and it was amazing. I mean, it was just wow. I was about 8 years old. No, 7 years old when the movie came out originally, and of course I watched it on cable. But when I did get a chance to watch it on the big screen, I definitely took advantage of that because Alien is one of my all-time favorite movies. Probably number two, and even after 40 years, it still holds up very well. It's a brilliant movie by Ridley Scott. The cast is incredible. You have, Sigourney Weaver, you have Tom Skerritt, you have, I believe it's Virginia Cart or Angela Cart? No, it's one of the Cartwright sisters. You have Yaphet Kotto, you have Harry Dean Stanton, you have Ian Holm. Jeez, that is, and John Hurt. Who could forget John Hurt? That cast is incredible, and given the fact that this movie was made 40 years ago, it still stands up against some of the best horror movies and sci-fi movies ever made, and it definitely goes down as one of the best sci-fi horror movies ever made, along with The Thing, which I consider to be my other favorite, sci-fi slash horror slash, whatever movie. So that's gonna be something to look forward to. So you know what? Maybe I'll watch Alien on my birthday. That might be a good thing to do on my birthday. If not, I did hear about a screening of Shaun of the Dead that might be occurring locally, so I might look into that. You know what? Hey, you know what? That actually sounds like a good idea. Maybe I'll take the girlfriend along. She's not big on horror movies, but what's funny is I actually got her to watch Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. And she only kind of squirmed a couple of times. She thought that one or two of the deaths were unnecessary, but otherwise she enjoyed the movie. She thought it was funny, and I did tell her point blank, it's a comedy. It's a black comedy. It's some of the death scenes are a little morbid, but it's not too bad. I remember watching both movies and I watched both of them in the theater, and I love those movies. They're great. They're wonderful, and definitely something we can discuss at a later show. All right. So as you can see, I've been readjusting the background pictures a bit here. I moved things around in the layer here, and so what I wanted to do was basically show off some of the cool things that I've gotten in the past couple of months. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the Terrifier poster that I have right here is actually signed by Damien Leone, and hopefully I'll get that signed by David Howard Thornton in a couple of months when I go to Texas Frightmare Weekend. You can't see it right now, but right above me is a wonderful picture of Felissa Rose that she autographed for me. Oh, she's such a doll. I love her to death. She's wonderful. And she signed it for me. I got a personal message from her, too. It's awesome. I will post a picture of I will post a closer picture so you can take a look at it. It's pretty nifty. It's basically a reworking of the second Sleepaway Camp box cover, which had Pamela Springsteen on it, but it has Felissa Rose on it, because after all, she is the main character in the first Sleepaway Camp movie. Of course, I got my Life Force poster there, which was a poster I got from my friend Tom. I mean, it's an amazing poster, and of course, if you're not familiar, I do have a fun rule involving Life Force. Anytime somebody mentions Life Force on a Twitter posting, I followed up with a picture of Mathilda May, the space girl, who, as quoted by one of my friends, Caledonian Rose, oh, that naked girl that's in that movie. Yes, Miss Rose, the naked girl in the movie. And she does wear a robe for like 5 seconds. God, I hate that robe. But I also have my Georgie Funko doll, which I had signed by the young actor from the It movie a couple of weeks ago. That was, pretty awesome. Yay. And then I just got this one framed. This is something special here. This is an autographed photo, or autographed print of from Sid Haig. Now, I didn't meet Sid Haig, but I had a friend give it to me as a birthday present 2 years ago. So I went ahead and had it framed. I am hoping that someday I can get Bill Moseley to sign it, and maybe even Sherry Moon Zombie to sign it. That would be amazing. It would be a great way to remember Sid Haig. But wow. After losing Sid Haig earlier this month, it's nice to have something. I didn't meet him, but I do have this wonderful autograph from him. Hell, if you can't have if you can't meet him in person, at least I have something, that I can say, hey, it's got Sid's signature in it. So that's pretty cool. All right, so this week I did watch a couple of movies, not a lot of movies. Strangely enough, my schedule is kind of busy around now. I've got my normal work schedule. Yes, I work a normal job, and of course I also do some Lyft driving too. I had some characters this weekend, that's for sure. But but generally it's fun. I actually enjoy it. It's rather entertaining and fun. It's a good way to make money as long as you know the city very well, like I do. And so little free time that I do get, I try to watch a movie at night if I'm not falling asleep, because even though I get by on 5 hours of sleep, I do need to sleep. Don't tell the girlfriend that. All right, so some of the movies I did watch. There was a movie that was put on, I believe it was Shudder. It was called The Furies. Now, The Furies is a interesting movie. It was one that kind of stood out a bit because I was a little confused with it at first. A young woman wakes up and she finds herself in the middle of a forest. Basically she was kidnapped along with her friend, and they find themselves to be the targets of individuals wearing masks. You have and with various weapons. So you have one killer with a hatchet, another one with a machete, and one with a knife. And there's a kind of a game going on where they're basically targeting other women who are captured. And it was a pretty interesting movie. It's basically a slasher survival game with women basically being the victims, and then you have the masked individuals, hunting them down. Although, as you watch the movie, you learn that there's a little more to what's going on. So it's not just they're just going around killing these, defenseless women. So it's definitely worth checking out. I actually enjoyed it. It's called The Furies. Now, Art the Clown, as many of you may be aware, is a particular favorite character of mine these past couple of years. His first appearance was in a movie called All Hallows Eve, which was a Halloween anthology that came out about 9 years ago, well, maybe 7. And he was basically one of the featured characters in that. Well, they made a sequel to that movie. It was called All Hallows Eve 2, but there is no Art the Clown in it. It is an anthology, and it does involve, this young woman basically watching a beat up tape with some, pretty creepy videos on there. I don't want to go into description of the movies or the anthology little clips, because it's, check it out. It's not as good as the first one, but you know what? Hey, it might be something worth checking out for Halloween because, anthology movies are pretty cool, and, it's something you can find out there. I believe it's on Tubi. You can probably watch it then. Now, of course, one of the big, to-do movies that was recently released was El Camino. Now, El Camino is not a horror movie. It's not a sci-fi movie. But you know what? It's related to Breaking Bad. and I did definitely have to go check that out because I do enjoy the movie or the TV show Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So of course, I do watch things other than sci-fi and horror. But I do really recommend watching El Camino if you're a fan of Breaking Bad. It's a follow-up story about what happens with Jesse Pinkman. And I did post a little video on my YouTube channel talking about my thoughts of it. What happens, and, I mean, without spoiling it. And now, of course, the other news related to that was that the actor Robert Forster, who appears in El Camino, passed away that very day that it was released. And it's like, wow, I mean, that's kind of like weird, I mean, like it was his last movie, and the day it was released was the day he died. I mean, if anything, check out Robert Forster's, movies. He's got some really great movies out there. I mean, you have Jackie Brown, you have, The Black Hole, you have Delta Force, and then he also appeared in Twin Peaks as well as Breaking Bad. So I mean, those are some pretty outstanding roles. In a good way to cap a pretty illustrious career. Oh, by the way, he was also Oscar nominated for his role in Jackie Brown. So that was a good role, very good role. Now, the other movie I watched, and this is one that I found interesting. Okay, about 2012, you had a movie called The Purge come out. Now, I remember when it came out, it was basically your standard home invasion movie starring, I believe, Ethan Hawke. His family basically they hole up and try to survive the night in a society where legalized murder is permitted for about 12 hours. I remember watching the movie thinking how absurd a premise that was. I mean, as a home invasion movie, it's not too bad. It's okay. Not if anything, you really don't like the character. I mean, he's kind of a jackass. I mean, well, no, okay, he's an asshole. I mean, and you can tell that his neighbors don't like him. Because he obviously made a lot of money, fortifying their houses, to protect themselves from the armed assailants that are out there. Now, I know when The Purge came out, yeah, it was kind of controversial, because the premise was a little out there. Well, I did watch one of the sequel movies that I had yet to catch, and that was The Purge Anarchy. Now, what I will say about the Purge movies, and there's 4 of them, plus a TV series, you have The Purge, Purge Anarchy, Purge Election Year, and The First Purge. The very, well, the Purge movie that came out in 2012 is definitely the weakest one, because it really doesn't go into depth as to what the whole series is. Maybe they hadn't figured out what they wanted yet. But what I really liked about about Purge Anarchy was it set in motion where this franchise would go. With the recent election, in 2016 of Donald Trump, you're starting to see a society that tends to be a little more hostile towards outsiders or others. And even though The Purge looked absurd in 2012, it gets a little creepy to think that we may not be that far away from that society if the wrong outcomes of some future elections occur, especially with the idea of the new founding fathers. Well, that being said, if you've never seen the sequels to the Purge movies, I really highly recommend them, because what they do is they take the Purge movies and they introduce the idea of social control. Basically, you have the poor and the and various minorities basically having to go out and survive as armed assailants go out there to try to take them out. And you also learn that there's something more going on. It's not just a simple matter of people going out with guns and just shooting people at random. There's a much darker reason behind the Purge. So if you haven't checked out any of the Purge movies, I highly recommend them. I mean, the first one's okay, not great, but I really recommend the sequels. Purge Anarchy, Purge Election Year, and the First Purge, because those 3 movies constitute a pretty good trilogy of films, especially given the nature of our things that are going on today, and just how scary it can get. Now, let's see. I did do a couple of lists as we I'm getting closer to Halloween. I'm basically 18 lists away until I finish doing my daily list. So the list that I did do this past week, which you might want to check out, include Mexican horror movies, and strangely enough, not all of them are by Guillermo del Toro. Now, there are some great ones on there, so I really highly recommend them, because I know I watched a movie called Tigers Are Not Afraid, which I thought was outstanding. And, of course, you have some of Guillermo del Toro's Guillermo del Toro's early movies like Kronos and The Devil's Backbone on that list, as well as some other movies that are pretty good. I mean, Mexican horror is not as well known as, let's say, horror from other countries, but there are some really good movies out there. And strangely enough, there's actually a movie that's related to La Llorona, which was the movie that was made earlier this year. But I imagine the Mexican version of that story, which goes back a lot further, it's probably a better story. Now, I also did a list on 80s horror comedy films. That's a fun one to go out there because, sometimes horror movies are kind of cool when they're funny, and I have a great list of movies from there. And then I have a follow up of an earlier list I did last week of actresses in the most horror movies. I had somebody ask me, how come Danielle Harris wasn't in the list? Well, the funny thing is, I put a list of around 15 actresses, and Danielle Harris didn't quite have that many movies. I mean, there are some actresses out there that have made a lot of movies. Now, most of them are probably movies we've never heard of, but you've got a lot of low budget movies. You have a lot of movies, like The Asylum, or just I mean, there are non studio movies. I mean, a lot of independent movies, and you have these actresses that go out there and they appear in 30, 40, 50 movies, or in various roles. So, it's worth noting, their accomplishments because, yeah, they may not be as famous as Barbara Crampton or Danielle Harris, but, these are actresses who are just as hardworking, and for many of them, they may have maybe one or two notable films, but hey, you know what? Let's get out there and check them out because we might find the next big star in there, or at least find a body of work that might be worth checking out for sure. So check out that list. Now, last week I had mentioned I was going to be doing a podcast next year with a friend of mine named Labellana Winters. We were talking about this past weekend, and we're probably going to get it started sometime in January because we're both going to be going to the Cult Classic Convention in February. So we wanted to do like a joint, meetup so we can do a podcast together because we're going to be doing it remotely. I'm going to be here in San Antonio, and she's going to be in North Texas where she lives. But we're going to do it together as a perspective of she's in North Texas, I'm in South Central Texas. And it's going to be more than just a movie podcast. We're going to talk about, topics related to horror, scary stories. We might even read stories, we'll see what we can do. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with podcasts. And, I mean, if anything, I've gotten to know her, and she's an amazing person. I really highly recommend that you follow her. So what I'll do is, of course, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, and what I'll do on the notes for this video, I'll put a link to Labellana's Twitter account or Instagram account, whichever one she prefers. That way you can reach out to her because she is an amazing person to get to know. She really loves horror, and she's a huge fan, and she's got a great perspective. And it's great to see female voices on horror because everybody tends to think that horror is a male genre. But no, there are a lot of great female fans out there who appreciate horror as much as we do. Now, and that pretty much covers the extent of the week. Basically a lot of preparation to get ready for Halloween. So as we can see, we've got about 2.5 more weeks before Halloween's here. And it's going to be fun, it's going to be a lot to do. So I'm definitely going to start catching some more scary movies, and I'll try to get a few more movies done in because I still got about 70 movies to go before I hit 300. But just wanted to close that out and wish everyone a good week. And let's just say that's the lowdown with the Losman. All right, later.